exciting race day one yesterday, and today is going to be equally exciting, that's for sure, because yesterday was all about the weather, a huge gamble, and it looks like today it's going to be the same. At the moment, it's drizzling a little bit. On the left side, we've got a bit of blue skies. On the right side, we've got clouds, so it's going to be very interesting. And another interesting fact is we're here in the box, or in front of the box of Calvin van der Linde, who's the leader of the championship. And as you can see, his tires are not on the car yet. And that is because they're leaving it up for the very last minute to decide what kind of tires they're going to use. Whether they're thinking it's going to get drier or whether they're going to think it's going to rain even more. So they're keeping it up to the very last minute, and that's a pretty interesting fact, I think. Calvin is already sitting in the car. He's getting ready for the qualifying, and we will find out what kind of tires are going to put on the car. So let's see. Calvin is the leader of the championship, 6 points ahead of Mirko Bortolotti, and then we've got René Rast. So it's going to be super exciting because obviously it's all about the qualifying. So let's do it. Let's get qualifying. Here are your commentators. Do enjoy.
Thank you very much, Verena. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of this amazing weekend. We're celebrating the 40th birthday of DTM this weekend, and no better place to do it than here on the streets of Nuremberg at the Norisring. We can see the umbrellas going up. We're still trying to get over yesterday's race. What an absolute classic. And the weather certainly played a very significant part in it. It was Jack Aitken who started in pole position, led the early part of the race, immense pressure from Sheldon van der Linde, but then the heavens opened and the big question was whether to stay on the slick tyres or whether to change to wet weather tyres. Well, most of the field changed to wet weather tyres as the thunderstorm moved in. There were 3 very brave drivers who stayed on the slick tyres, and those 3 drivers took the gamble. It paid off, and they finished 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. It was a win for René Rast, Franck Pereira in 2nd place, and Luca Engstler in 3rd place. It's closed the championship up even more so if that were needed. So Calvin van der Linde still at the top of the points, but Mirko Bortolotti just 6 points behind. René Rast's win yesterday elevated him from 9th in the championship up to 3rd place, just 10 points adrift. In 4th place is Sheldon van der Linde with 70 points. That's 22 points adrift. And Jack Aitken and Ricardo Feller round out the top 5 there, even on 69 points. Right, you can see a list of drivers on your screen there. If you weren't with us yesterday, just to explain how things are going to work today. We are at the Norisring. It is a very short circuit with just 5 corners. It is 2.162 kilometers around, as we see confirmation of those points that I was just talking about. Because this circuit is such a small circuit, we're not putting 20 cars out for qualifying all at the same time. We're doing it in 2 groups of 10. Those groups were determined by times earned in the 2 free practice sessions on Friday. The groups remain the same today. Yesterday, it was Group A that went first and Group B that went second. Today, to make things even, it's Group B that go first and Group A that go second. Now, the fastest driver across both of those groups will start on pole position. Yesterday, it was Jack Aitken who started in Group B, who was the fastest of any of the 20 drivers across both of those sessions. So he had pole position. The remainder of his group, which was Group B, lined up behind him on the inside row in order of their times. Group A, the fastest in that group, would line up on the outside of the front row. That was Sheldon van der Linde yesterday. And again, his group, Group A, lined up in order of their times behind him. We're going to do exactly the same today. Now, in theory, the track should get quicker and quicker as it dries out, as more rubber is laid down. And so that is why, potentially, Group B was more advantageous yesterday, going second. But, of course, the weather which has been stealing the headlines all weekend, is going to play a big part in it. And as Verena said, there is a little bit of rain in the air. I spent most of yesterday's race with my hand sticking out of the commentary box door, trying to detect whether it was raining or not. Well, my hand is currently sticking out the commentary box door as I speak. There is no rain at the moment. There are a few spits and spots a little while ago, and that is why the drivers have got didn't have wheels on the car because they're waiting to the last minute to see whether it was going to continue raining. The big choice, is it going to be slick tyres for this qualifying session, or is it going to be wet weather tyres? The car's quite eager to get out on track early on, get a banker lap in, because if the heavens do open, and it is a possibility, then clearly the times set at the beginning of the session are going to be quicker. But you don't want to pull the trigger too early, because if the track remains dry and gets quicker and quicker, then at the end of the session is when you want to be taking the most out of your tyres. Right, you can see the first of two qualifying sessions. Yes, it's a bonus qualifying session here at the Norisring on this Sunday. Has already started, 20 minutes. The clock is ticking down. We've already had a minute of that. My name's Brian Oliver. Chris Hartley is currently in the UK enjoying, I think, probably snow by the sound of things at Silverstone. So alongside me for this weekend, very pleased to welcome Mr. Adam Weller.
Thank you, Brian. It's going to be certainly, I would suggest, slick tyres, at least for this Group B session. It's far too dry for wet tyres out there at the moment. If they did go out there on the treaded compound, it would be a similar effect to what you get when you rub a piece of cheddar along a cheese grater. They would very quickly disintegrate at the moment. Lots of drivers out there, lots of drivers looking like they're trying to heat up the tyres as quickly as possible. And that's because while it is slicks weather now, how long is it going to be slicks weather? I expect we are going to see a couple of banker laps coming in thick and fast here in the early stages of the session. Last year, the fastest time in qualifying was a 48.662. We haven't got to those heady heights yet this weekend. We're probably not going to in this session either, even though the track is effectively dry right now. Obviously, a lot of the grip that was built in over the course of the last 2 days washed away over the course of yesterday afternoon.
Here comes yesterday's race winner in the distinctive blue Schubert Motorsport BMW, René Rast, who really set his championship alight, looking for his 4th DTM title. Certainly very much in contention as a result of that win yesterday. That put him up to 3rd place, just 10 points away from championship leader Kelvin van der Linde. We've got a number of records to be broken this weekend, and René Rast would love to be the man who breaks the record for BMW. Tell us about that, Adam.
So BMW, as of yesterday afternoon, secured their 99th victory in the DTM. The most victories in DTM by quite some margin is Mercedes, because they've been the most consistent and ever present. However, there is certainly the option of BMW getting victory number 100 right here on the streets of Norisring. It would be a big deal on this 40th birthday celebration for DTM, lest we forget the first ever DTM race, Zolder 1984. It was a BMW win. Here's Lucas Auer.
Me, at the moment, I have no more proper rain expected. Also no slight rain as it looks.
Well, that will...
Yeah, all good.
Sorry to interrupt, Lucas. As you were. That'll be a great relief for many. I have to say it was the weather that really gave the race its extra element yesterday. So Lucas Auer had a bit of a bad day of it, retired early on in the race with damage. We just saw in an earlier shot Thomas Preining and Luca Exler running side by side. I think they thought they were in the race. At the moment, all the cars are out on track, so getting the tyres into that window, tyre blankets not permitted in the DTM. So the drivers heading out onto the track with stone cold tyres, not even any sunshine to warm them up. So it takes a few laps just to generate heat into the rubber, get the tyres into the operating window, and then it's time to go for that push lap. Very interesting, because often in DTM qualifying, if you're a follower of DTM, you'll know that the cars often go out for an installation lap and then come straight back into the pits. We all sit around watching the grass grow for about 15 minutes, and then it's 5 minutes of chaos. But here, the cars are out on track pretty well from the get-go. So most of the cars, in fact, all of the cars still out on track with the exception of Kelvin van der Linde, who's just peeled off into the pits. And there he is, just coming down the pit lane. So all the cars out on track, generating the heat, generating, hopefully, a drier line on the track. So a different kind of strategy to what we often see. There is Jack Aitken. He is the driver who really lost out a little bit yesterday as a result of the weather. He tried to stick it out. He was on the dry tyres. He waited till last minute in the pit window to give himself as much option as possible. He came in, came back out again, and guess what? The heavens opened within about 2 minutes, and he had to come back in for wet weather tyres. So Jack Aitken looking to make amends for that. Right, whilst all that's been going on, Rene Rast has been generating the heat, has been putting in the times, a 49.886. So already Rene Rast below 50 seconds. Yesterday's pole time in the sunshine set by Jack Aitken was a 48.965. Would expect the times to be slower overall in both sessions today. So I'd say a 49.886 from Rene Rast. Already maybe setting out his stall. Not during qualifying, but during the race this afternoon, he will be carrying an extra 20 kilos of success ballast as a result of winning that race, as he now just peels off into the pit lane. But because he won yesterday, he will be carrying an extra 20 kilos of ballast in the race today, but not in this qualifying session. Franck Pereira will have an extra 10 kilos of ballast on account of finishing second, and Luca Engstler will have an additional 5 kilos on account of finishing third.
Yesterday, it was a 49.0 for the first group that went out on circuit. Mirko Bortolotti is going to talk to us now.
If we updated the next 3 laps, on the main straight, what the best lap time is, every lap.
Mirko Bortolotti wants to be on the loop then when it comes to the lap times. They're pushing early. My point with the previous statement, a 49.0, the fastest time in the first group out on circuit yesterday. That was, of course, Group A that went out first. We're seeing the Group B cars out at the moment. The grid split in half, as we alluded to at the top of the broadcast. And we are seeing competitive times early on, a 49.451 from the man in slow-mo here, Lucas Stoltz. We are, unlike most qualifying sessions in the DTM, seeing times that could be very important in the first half of the session. Usually, this is still firmly what we'd call the qualifying preamble part of the day. It's not the case at the moment. I don't know if we're quite going to get to a 49.0 this morning with the newly scrubbed tarmac. 49.451 from Stoltz feels to me like it could be a very strong time.
Yes, we're not quite used to this, are we? A qualifying session with cars running for the full 20 minutes. Who knew? Lucas Stoltz, then, he is the benchmark at the moment, a 49.451. The track that is 2.162 kilometers around, as already mentioned, that is 1.343 miles, if you want it in English money, divided into 3 sectors, very short sectors they are too. One halfway between turns 1 and turns 2, the other just heading into turn 4. Those are the 2 sector breaks. So the drivers earn times in each of those sectors. If the driver is quickest of anybody, the time screen turns purple, and that's exactly what's happened for Jack Aitken, because he is the quickest in both Sector 2 and Sector 3. The green graphic indicates he's done a personal best in Sector 1, but the times have started to come tumbling down now. Yesterday's pole sitter still a little bit sore after yesterday. Jack Aitken, a 49.378. So he's turning up the wick. They're getting the heat into the tyres. The Ferrari once again looking very dialed in here.
Very much so. It's that middle sector where the Ferrari seems to be particularly strong. Of course, rotation is always a strength of a mid-engined car. Turn 2, turn 3 is where rotation is at its most important around this circuit. Of course, you don't want to over-rotate. That's when you end up into a wall backwards. But it does seem that Ferrari is well balanced for Aitken and Vermeulen and the Emil Frey Racing team on this weekend. Well, Mirko Bortolotti asked for the lap times to come in his ear. He's obviously been told 49.3 is your target, and at the moment he's shooting for it.
René Rast, who we saw at the top of the timing screen a little earlier on, is under investigation by our race stewards for blocking Jack Aitken in turn 1. That's quite easy to do on a circuit which is basically 2 hairpins joined together by 2 straights, almost an oval, apart from a chicane that is a turn 2 and turn 3, the Scholar S. Just to bring you up to date with a couple of changes overnight as Mirko Bortolotti jumps to the top with a 49.280. We've had 4 changes to the balance of performance overnight. The Audi has been requested to add an extra 5 kilos, taking it up to 1,305 kilograms overall. However, they've been allowed a restrictor plate that is half a mil larger, which effectively gives them more power. So a change in dynamic for the Audi. McLaren has been able to adjust their boost pressure curve to give them a little bit more boost as well. Mercedes have been able to unload 10 kilograms, taking them down to 1,330 kilograms, and Porsche have been able to unload a massive 15 kilograms, taking them down to 1,290 kilograms. BMW, Ferrari, Lamborghini remain the same, but we did see the Porsches struggling a little bit in qualifying yesterday. So the BOP that's changed overnight, a very complex formula. It's not just somebody making it all up and writing it on the back of a fag packet. It is a very complex formula that is put together to make sure these cars are as equal as possible, especially here around the streets of the Norisring. It's Mirko Bortolotti, a personal best in Sector 2, as indicated by the green graphic beneath his name. Team Emil Frey Racing under investigation also for an infringement of Article 23.4. We've seen that several times over this weekend. The Article 23.4 popping up on our screens, and that's to do, I believe, with the number of mechanics working on the car.
Yep, Mirko Bortolotti 49.215 on that time across the line. So you mentioned personal best. Sector 2 was the best lap of the session overall. Aitken just crossing the line with a 49.378 as his best time, but his last wasn't quite as good. Bortolotti, though, setting the benchmarks right now. Realistically, I think there's only a couple of tenths less to find for everybody. The theoretical best lap around the circuit, combining the 3 purple sectors, is currently a 48.967. It's always so unlikely with these cars, different characteristics, that we'll get that theoretical best time or anything close to it, but a 49.148, wow. The new benchmark from Bortolotti. Thomas Preining, meanwhile, up to 5th place among the 10 that are currently running. He'll be hoping that that balance of performance break serves him well today. Yeah, he was very frustrated yesterday, didn't feel he had any pace, and was not feeling optimistic about repeating his win here at this event last year. While we were talking, Lucas Auer jumped up into P2, so looking for a better day than yesterday in the Yellow Mamba, but that was eclipsed by Jack Aitken. Now Auer has responded back up to P2, 49.151. We might yet make it into the 48s at this rate. Luca Engsler also having a much better weekend than he thought he was going to have. Of course, finished on the podium yesterday. Was struggling for pace in the GRT Grasset Lamborghini on Friday, but certainly sorted that out. Currently in 7th place. Of course, the thing we have to consider is that while the circuit maybe isn't quite as rubbered in as it was this time yesterday morning, we're also about 10 degrees lower on the ambient temperature scale. Yes, that does mean the track is also cooler and perhaps yielding a little bit less grip, but critically, these engines can run a little bit nicer, provide that little extra decimal of brake horsepower. Maybe that's why we're seeing the pace increase, a 49.072. Yes, Lucas Auer definitely wants to make up for yesterday to the top of the timing screens. Remember, this is their qualifying positions within a row, not within the grid. So whoever finishes first will be on the front row, whoever finishes second will be on the second row, third on the third row, and so on and so forth. Whether it's the inside or the outside will be determined by which of the 2 groups has the fastest driver. Kelvin van Linde back out on track. He felt as though yesterday they extracted about as much as they could out of the car and out of the race. It was a 6th
place. But that championship lead that he has, that is now down to just 6 points. Well, it is so close because there are 29 points covering the top 10 in the championship. So every point counts. Don't forget, they can earn points here because pole position will get 3 points in qualifying. Second on the grid will get 2 points, and third will get 1. Mirko Bortolotti, quickest of anybody in Sector 2, but not hooking it up quite as much in Sectors 1 and 3. So we'll see whether he can improve on that. He's P2 at the moment. The benchmark, 49.072. Here comes Ian Chen Nguyen across the line in the other of the Manthey EMA cars. So that is a P6 for him. And yesterday's winner, René Rast, personal bests in 1, 2, and 3, but is only good enough for a 9th row start at the moment.
That's not going to be satisfying for René Rast. He said yesterday on the pre-grid to Verena that he feels more like he's a racer around this circuit than a qualifier, and well, he did prove himself on that front in yesterday's race. However, it will be very difficult to have any strong result from row number 9, but I suspect we might see a little bit more out of that BMW before too long. So then, here comes Jack Aitken, no personal bests on this lap, but still a strong lap. 49.094. He aced the final sector, and that was enough to bring him a lot closer to the pace of Bortolotti and Auer, who's on 2 PBs at the moment. And given the fact he is the fastest driver out there already, that could be interesting. Stoltz has just gone top on a 49.049. Can Auer respond? Yes.
It looks like the BOP change to the Mercedes overnight has made a significant difference, because at the moment it's 2 Mercedes at the top of the timing screens. Lucas Auer, that man there in the legendary yellow Mamba livery, the number 22 car for Mercedes-AMG Team Man Filter. It's the Team HRT car of Lucas Stoltz in second. And then a Lamborghini in third with Mirko Bortolotti. Jack Aitken in fourth, Kelvin van der Linde in 5th place. But to the top, Kelvin van der Linde, as we say his name, a 49.015. So the Audi also finding some pace. Lucas Stoltz responding. Purple in Sector 1, green in Sector 2. And to the top, 48.969. We're into the 48s, and it's Lucas Stoltz, who is the driver, who's the first to make it into a 48. 48.969, that's what they're aiming for. Just over 2.5 minutes remaining on this, the first of 2 qualifying sessions this morning here at the Norisring.
So far, the top 9 in the session within 3/10. Ben Durr a little bit behind in the Durr Motorsport McLaren, but all looking very even Stevens across the board in this qualifying session. The changes that have been made overnight seemingly working nicely. Stoltz, though, is our benchmark. Here he comes again.
We did wonder whether the fastest time would be significantly slower than yesterday. Well, the time that Lucas Stoltz has at the moment at the top, 48.969, is just 4 thousandths of a second slower than Jack Aitken's pole time yesterday, and that came in the second group. So the track certainly has a bit of pace. Kelvin van der Linde has some pace again in Sector 1. He's purple, personal best in Sector 2, 15.047. There's Thomas Prynin crossing the line. It's 23 consecutive points finishes for him, still looking to continue that incredible run. The only driver who has done that as Mirko Bortolotti to the top of 48.914. Kelvin van der Linde remains in third, 48.969. This is incredibly close. 8/10, just under 9/10 of a second, covering the entire field at the moment. Mirko Bortolotti, though, with the benchmark, just over a minute remaining of this Group B, the first of 2 qualifying sessions here at the Norisring this morning, and it's that car there, Mirko Bortolotti for SSR Performance, the Lamborghini Huracan, that is leading the way. Lucas Stoltz in the Mercedes in second, Kelvin van der Linde in the Audi in third. So 3 different brands in the top 3 at the moment. Jack Aitken would like to make it 4 as he comes out of turn 5 to cross the line. And it's a P5 for Jack Aitken, a 49.094. Has he got any more to come?
48.969 for both Stolz and Kelvin van der Linde, so they're on the exact same time. Bortolotti is improving upon his, by the looks of it. He may get into the 48.8s here.
So Bortolotti still pushing on. This track not as hard wearing on the tyres as some of the others that we visit. So the driver's able to maybe extract more in the way of laps out of the tyres. Mirko Bortolotti knows that 48.892 is only 0.07 of a second faster than Lucas Stolz in second, so wants to extend that gap if he can. Thomas Preining across the line. Checkered flag is out, so P6 is as good as it's going to get for Thomas Preining. A 6th row start at best, and that's assuming no one behind him improves. So the defending champion still struggling for pace a little bit here at the Norisring. Here comes Lucas Stolz, his last chance to move up the order. It's not going to happen. He is in 3rd place. Yesterday's winner, Rene Rast, down on the 9th row. Kelvin van der Linde in 2nd. I don't think Luca Engstler is going to improve either, so it's going to be Mirko Bortolotti who will start on the front row for race 8 of the season this afternoon. Whether it's on the inside or the outside remains to be seen. We'll let you know that after the next qualifying group have done their qualifying session as well. So we're going to have another qualifying session in a few moments' time. You can see the Mirko Bortolotti's wing mirror, another that has been claimed by the wall of wing mirrors. And I have to say, yesterday, Jack Aitken gave us a wonderful quote as we look at that wing mirror going south as a result of the concrete wall. It was Jack Aitken yesterday who said, "The Norisring, where wing mirrors go to die and track rods cower in fear." I wish I'd written that. There is the aforementioned wing mirrors parting company with the Lamborghini and indeed going to die. They say if you break a mirror, it's 7 years bad luck. It's very good luck for Mirko Bortolotti, and he's on the team radio.
And honestly, I took fucking everything I could take, man. The car is completely destroyed on the right side. Sorry for
that. If we could expand the Wales in Africa to include the swear box as well, I think we'd probably double the total. Right, here we go then. Apologies for the bad language. Mirko Bortolotti, Son's right-hand mirror, 48.892. Kelvin van der Linde, just 0.08 of a second behind, so near and yet so far. Lucas Stolz in 3rd place, ahead of Lucas Hauer, who's at the top for a while. Yesterday's pole sitter, Jack Aitken, will be mid-order on the 5th row, ahead of Thomas Preining, Einchen Nguyen, Luca Engstler, Rene Rast and Ben Deur. Ben Deur looking for a better day today. It's his first weekend here at the Norisring. He had to retire from the race yesterday. Had a very strong smell of fuel in the car and very wisely decided to park it up where they worked out where that was coming from. Right, there is qualifying Group 8, who just to confuse us a bit more are going 2nd. They are going to be the next group of cars out on track. So the other half of the field. So just to remind you once again, whoever is quickest between the fastest of Group B and the fastest of Group A, that will determine who's on pole position, and the remainder of their group will line up behind them. But certainly on the front row, Mirko Bortolotti, he will now be doing his rain dance in the hope that the wet stuff comes down, because if it does and we have slower lap times in this second session, it means that he would get pole position. His teammate Nikki Thiim, who has been like a man possessed this weekend, came so close to a podium yesterday. It was a P4. He won Spa 24 last weekend and is used to the wet weather. There is Maro Engel, who starts his 100th race in the DTM here this weekend. So congratulations to him. Right, let's head back down to Verena, who's on in the pits.
So, and in session 1, we've got Kelvin van der Linde, who's P2, so you're definitely 2nd row, so I guess that sounds very promising for the race.
It is promising, no doubt, no doubt. Obviously, you're a bit disappointed when you lose the pole by 0.08. So I got to deal with that for a couple of minutes, but then we look forward to the race.
Absolutely, and the race today, I mean, it was raining earlier a little bit. Do you think it's going to be a gamble again like yesterday?
Yeah, maybe. I hope so, to be honest. I think we were quite good in the mixed conditions yesterday, so if it rains, I think we're in the hunt. And even if it's dry, I think we're in the hunt. So let's see what happens in Q2 now, or the second part of the qualifying. Hopefully my brother can bang it on pole this time round. That would be nice. And then we take it from there.
And also you lead of the championship. So again, I mean, it's so crucial to be in your second row. So that's really good.
Yeah, but the guy right behind me is in front of me. So we got to beat him in the race.
I'll give you the minute now. All right, thank you so much, Kelvin. Back to you.
Yes, indeed. So Mirko Bortolotti is going to earn points from this qualifying session. Of course, whether it's 3 or whether it's 2 is out of his hands at the moment. So he will be closing in on Kelvin van der Linde, who has indeed changed his tune since Thursday, because he said to me on Thursday, I do not want rain around Norisring. Well, clearly he does now, and he's kind of doing everything he can to will the water to fall from the skies. Right, Group B now heading out onto track. So another 20 minutes of qualifying. Get the feeling, Adam, it's not going to be 15 minutes of looking at an empty track once again.
Least likely scenario, I'd suggest, this morning. It was an incredibly close conclusion to Group B. Van der Linde, on pretty much his final flying lap, found extra time. Bortolotti had to respond with his final flyer, as we saw 0.08 of a second, ultimately the difference between the two V10 machines, the Lamborghini from SSR Performance and the Sportline Audi R8, driven by the South African. Well, it's going to be another 20 minutes then of probably quite a lot of hard running. 3 or 4 laps sure to embed the Pirelli P0s into the circuit, get some heat onto their cars. However, as we have said, we're all uncertain. I think yesterday has left a wound on all of us collectively. None of us quite know what the clouds are going to do up above. We want to set those banker laps early.
It left a wound on my voice. I think there were dogs in downtown Nuremberg that were barking higher than I was, lower than I was. 48.892, that is the benchmark time. So, if any of the drivers in this group can go quicker than 48.892, that driver will be on pole position and this group will be on the inside row. If nobody exceeds 48.892, then we are qualifying for the outside row. So there's lots to be thinking about here. We've got 18 minutes. It's going to be a few laps just to get the heat into the tyres and into the brakes, getting the tyres into the window around here. The Franconian Monaco, that's what it's nicknamed. This short circuit with barriers that do not move. And we've tried it several times over the weekend in some of the classes that have been on, and yeah, I can confirm the barriers are very, very close. We're using the streets around Nuremberg, roads that are used by the public the rest of the year round. Just while the cars are getting the tyres into the window, we want to say thank you again to the Motorsport Club of Nuremberg, who do so much for this legendary event, the 81st International ADAC Norisring Speed Weekend. They spend 2 weeks. There are 600 volunteers who put in around 10,000 hours setting up this. 5 kilometers of triple crash barriers, 5 kilometers of safety fence, 1 kilometer of mobile concrete crash barrier, 110 six-packs, that's the tyre bundles, 3 kilometers of water and sewage pipes, 5 kilometers of power cable, not to mention additional seating for 25,000 spectators. So a phenomenal job done by the Motorsport Club of Nuremberg. We have a big crowd that come in every year for this. We're expecting well over 100,000 people on the terraces over this weekend. Thierry Vermeulen in the Emil Frey Racing Ferrari 296. It was a 17th place yesterday, so there were no points scored by him. He'll be looking for the improvement. He knows there's pace in the car because his teammate Jack Aitken started on pole position. But for him, as it is for many drivers, this is a tough old track. Of course, you can't test here because it is a temporary circuit. The road has white lines, it has drain covers. I was walking around it, there was a crack in it with grass growing out of it in one point. There is a concrete pavement, there's tarmac. So lots to negotiate as we look at Thierry Vermeulen weaving quite frantically, trying to generate heat into those Pirelli slick tyres.
We also saw there was one of the McLarens being pushed in. I hope that wasn't Schmid's 85 car, because if so, then putting it into the garage at this early stage of the session may not be a good sign. My hope is that it was the Ben Dur car being packed away, but I don't think it was, because we didn't see a second McLaren on the pit apron, so that's potentially bad news for Clement Schmid, and we'll keep an eye on that one. Nikki Thiim coming across the line, bouncing across the line, and may have been bouncing off the walls a little bit in SSR Performance Hospitality yesterday, not just because of the adrenaline from that brilliant battle we saw with Mirko Bortolotti, but also because it was best ever finish in the DTM, taking a 4th place. Sheldon van der Linde, I should say, looks like he is starting to lower the benchmark as he comes across the line.
We've just seen the local man, Marco Wittmann, crossing the line, continuing to generate heat in his tyres. Of course, he won at Zandvoort the last time we all got together out in the North Sea dunes. It's his 11th time here. He won in 2018 this event. He said it was the most emotional victory of his career. Would dearly love to do it again. He has a very vocal fan club. They were not too excited yesterday because 12th place was not quite what they were expecting, but time to do it all again. At the moment, he's got a 4th row time, but would expect to see that coming down. 49.853. That is the quickest time as Mario Engel starting his 100th race in the DTM. 49.853. So we reckon still a second to come off. In your regular weather forecast, I was about to say the sun has come out. Well, it has, but there are raindrops coming down as well. I'm looking out of the commentary box door, and there's some very big raindrops coming out of the sky. Not enough to make the track slippery at the moment, but this is why the drivers are out there at the moment trying hard to get their tyres into the window, get a fast time on the board, because if the rain does increase, suddenly the track is going to get slower.
Yeah, I was just going to say, with the ambient temperatures lower and the sun starting to come out, I thought that was going to firmly benefit the second session out there on circuit, these Group A drivers. It's been declared a wet session ever since the green flag flew on this one, but now it actually means it by the sounds of it.
The drops there it's not heavy, but they are very big drops of rain. So yes, you've had more weather forecasts than you have motorsport commentary this weekend from us. It is Mario Engel, 49.853, now ever eager to turn the wick up. Mirko Bortolotti will be rubbing his hands together in the pits and saying, more of this, please, because this would give him pole position if nobody can beat that 48.892. His teammate weaving in the background, Nikki Thiim, the aforementioned Nikki Thiim. Ahead of him, Frank Pereira. If you didn't join us yesterday, Frank Pereira, who's sitting in for Christian Engelhardt this weekend. We say get well soon, Christian. He's had a knee operation after a winter injury. Hopes to be back at the Nürburgring in August, but the super sub Frank Pereira certainly looked after the car well yesterday, bringing it home in 2nd place.
We need to keep an eye on these lap times then, because if the rain does start to worsen, these will be the times that determine the front row of the grid, the second row of the grid on the outside line. And Mario Engel is clearly acutely aware that he might need to set a benchmark and set it fast, because here he comes across the line, having had a strong lap to this point. It's a 49.420. And here comes Frank Pereira, who's going even faster.
Frank Pereira on the crest of a wave. Don't forget, he will be carrying an extra 10 kilos during the race, not in qualifying though. Marco Wittmann, local man on team radio.
Did you got my comment about blocking from Senna in Q3?
No, sorry.
Well,
Yeah, please report it to the steward. He blocked me in Q3.
right. Well,
Copy.
blocking on a circuit like this, it's certainly not intentional, but very easy to do on such a thin and windy track.
I love that. Did you get my comment about fella blocking on the exit of turn 3?
Did the steward get it? What he meant to say.
Is it now on television? Because that would be really helpful. That's so Ricardo Fella potentially getting reported, at least by Marco Wittmann, if not the stewards. Franck Pereira lowers the bar, 49.361. He was 100th of a second off of Engel on his previous flying lap. He found a little bit more pace that time around. Arjun Maini is currently the second fastest of the Mercedes. He's third on a 49.489.
That BOP change certainly seems to have helped Mercedes, the overnight change that we have seen. The sun is shining out on track, but trust me, there is rain coming down and some big drops. It's not enough, I think, at the moment to affect any kind of pace. So at the moment, they're keeping the track reasonably dry. The windscreen wipers aren't going on the cars, but it is still spitting these big drops of rain. From Pereira, personal best in Sector 1, purple in Sector 2, looking to extend his position at the top. He does that at 49.187, but still a little way off the fastest time so far that came from Group B that went first, and that was the 48.892. There is Nikki Thiim continuing to push on in the Lamborghini. There's Max Powell. He was the fastest man yesterday in the race. He put up the fastest lap and was very pleased with that, but less pleased with 10th place. A good finishing position, but maybe he wanted more. He was the first to roll the dice, the first to put on the wet weather tyres. Some would say maybe it was a couple of laps too early, but it's lots of ifs, buts and maybes when it comes to tyres and weather.
Vermeulen goes second fastest to 49.347 for the ML Fry Racing driver. That is a very solid effort indeed. The Ferrari jumps, I should say, to second. I'm also pleased to report that Durham Motorsport have sent Clement Schmid out onto the circuit. So anyone wearing papaya, there is now a McLaren on the circuit.
Lots of papaya in motorsport nowadays. Look at Max Powell hustling that car around at the corner, the back end sliding, just trying to extract as much as he can from this lap. Mauro Engel, purple in Sector 1, but not so in Sector 2. The grey meaning it is neither an overall best or a personal best, but the 130 car in that livery celebrating Mercedes 130 years goes to P3, so that's a third row start at the moment. Nikki Thiim to the top of 49.097. Windscreen wipers going on Arjun Maini's car, so the rain continues to come down. You get the feeling that they're struggling to get it into the 48s, but Nikki Thiim has got very close, about 900ths of a second away from a 48-second time. Ricardo Feller has been reported to the stewards for blocking Marco Wittmann in turn 3. Once again, I don't think it's deliberate. It's very easy to do on this windy track.
The bar is lowering a lot right now. The wipers are starting to be engaged on some of these cars. These are critical moments in this Group A session. And Nikki Thiim comes across the line having set a purple and a green. An all-time best, a personal best, and not a personal best in Sector 3, but it's still his best time and the best time of anyone, a 48.984. He's less than a 10th off of Bortolotti's time as well. So if the weather holds off, we could yet see the fastest time coming from this second batch of cars.
Nikki Thiim looks like a man reborn this weekend here at the Norisring. It's fair to say, I think his start in DTM, his return to DTM in this, which is his 12th race, has not been all they did hope for, but this weekend he has been so rapid. That 4th place yesterday, he's never started on pole position. He may be feeling he has a sniff of that here at the Norisring.
Quite possibly. We get a replay here of Nikki Thiim. Is this wide at turn 1? No, that's turn 4, actually. It is wide, and it is yet another SSR performance wing mirror.
9 laps to go, 9 laps to go at the moment. P1, 110s in front, keep pushing.
What is the gap behind me? I need to make a gap here.
So,
you have a 10-second gap, you have a 10-second gap.
okay, the gap's really important. You don't want to be tripping over anybody else, but a purchase order has been raised, a box of wing mirrors to SSR Performance, please, particularly right-hand side ones for that Lamborghini. So Nikki Thiim, he didn't need it anyway, did he? How close can you get to the wall if you've still got a wing mirror on your car? Then not close enough. He continues to improve. He's got a sniff of his first ever pole position in DTM. Purple in Sector 1, green in Sector 2. He improves a 48.844. It will be Nikki Thiim who goes to the top. It's going to be Group B that starts on the inside for the race this afternoon, race 8, because that time has eclipsed Mirko Bortolotti's 48.892. It's Nikki Thiim. Now, if it stays like this, it will be an all-SSR performance front row, but Thierry Vermeulen has something to say about that. It was his teammate who started on pole yesterday, purple in Sector 1, green in Sector 2, but he goes up to P2. It's a second row start. It would be inside second row, third on the grid if things remain as they are. So Mirko Bortolotti will get 2 points added to his score from qualifying because he will be starting on the outside front row. The identity of the pole sitter at the moment is Nikki Thiim. Sheldon van der Linde wants to do something about it. Personal best in Sector 1, Sector 2. In Sector 3, he crosses the line. He goes second row, bumping Thierry Vermeulen. Less than 5 minutes remaining of this session. The times are starting to tumble down. The rain has abated somewhat. Still a few spits, but not much. Nikki Thiim quicker still in Sector 1. Franck Pereira quickest of all in Sector 2. The Lamborghini's looking very dialed in here, as indeed is the case with the number 63 car. But it's a P5 for Franck Pereira, so losing it in Sectors 1 and 3. Nikki Thiim across the line he comes. Does he improve? 48.758. So Nikki Thiim just nibbling away at that time. Sheldon van der Linde in the BMW up to inside second row. Thierry Vermeulen down to the inside third row.
Well, Lamborghini's never won a race here at the Norisring in DTM. They had 2 cars on the podium yesterday, and today it looks like they've got the pace to maybe challenge to go one better. Mirko Bortolotti at the moment is sitting here in the hospitality sipping a coffee, knowing full well that he's in second place. His stress is over, but for SSR Performance, it could be a front row lockout, of course, because as it stands, team in the 92, and then Bortolotti in the 94, sorry, the other way around, of course. Nikki Thiim in the 94, Bortolotti in the 92 would be a lockout for them.
Ah, come on, Miney.
Okay, mate, keep pushing. It's P2. It's P2, keep pushing.
Yeah, Sheldon van der Linde getting frustrated with Arjun.
I'm traffic, I need to back off.
Getting frustrated with Arjun Miney, the traffic, and that is why we have qualifying in 2 parts. If there were 20 cars out on the track at the moment, it would be twice the problem. The drivers need the space to be able to put in those hot laps, but still, even with only 10 cars out on the track, and all 10 of them are out on the track, finding the space, having that gap, not tripping over anybody, really, really crucial. We're into the final 3 minutes of qualifying. It's Nikki Thiim fighting for pole position. He's on that provisional pole at the moment with 48.758. Max Powell jumps up into P2. That would be third on the grid with a 48.873. Sheldon van der Linde into third place, ahead of Mauro Engel, who's improved, but he's now been eclipsed by Arjun Miney up to the 4th row. Behind Mauro Engel, 5th is Thierry Vermeulen. Franck Pereira down to 7th, ahead of Ricardo Feller, having a quiet morning by his standards, as is indeed the case for Zandvoort winner Marco Wittmann and Clemens Schmid in the 10th and final row at the moment. Franck Pereira trying to improve, but time is running out. I'm seeing no significant improvements, although Nikki Thiim, a personal best in Sector 2, so he is trying to extend that gap at the front. It was a 48.758. He crosses the line, and a 48.882, so he doesn't improve. But Max Powell, great job there. Third on the grid, P2 in these timing screens to remind you that we are qualifying for the inside row only. We've done the outside row, and it's Mirko Bortolotti who leads the way on that. This is the inside row that we're fighting for.
Amazingly, Nikki Thiim's best lap is within 600ths of a second of the theoretical best of the 3 purple sectors combined, which really shows how well that Lamborghini is working underneath him this morning on the streets of Nuremberg. This lap doesn't look like it's going to be an improvement from the Dane. But let's wait and see him across the line. It'll be in the 49s, definitely not a push lap. In fact, it was in the 50s. We are into the final minute of the session then, 55 seconds to go. Will there be any late improvements? Arjun Maini is on a very quick lap. He moves up to 3rd place.
Arjun Maini, who has been so quick this year, a man with a whole new fresh outlook on DTM and enjoying it after his podium at Zandvoort. But it's Nikki Thiim who's leading the way, looking to emulate his father, Kurt Thiim, who won here in 1991. He wants to do that as well. Nikki Thiim, he's already had his best ever finish in DTM. That was yesterday. He's never stood on the podium. He's never had a pole position. Today and this session could be where all those records start to get broken.
It's quite possible, isn't it? This is a very interesting session we've got teed up here. Engel crosses the line for 4th position. That, of course, is going to be 7th on the grid when we get gridded up for racing later on as it stands. Van der Linde's been frustrated. He feels he's got more. Can he show us more as he approaches the line now?
So he crosses the line. The car 31, it is a 5th place that he remains. Checkered flag is out. Anyone who's on a lap is able to complete it. But Nikki Thiim looking pretty solid in that pole position. Mara Engel responding though. So Mara Engel in the Mercedes, currently in 4th place, quick as anybody in Sector 1, but not in Sector 2. He's still trying to dial it all together. Can he regain that lost ground in Sector 3? Looking like a bit of a stretch, but he might be able to improve on his P4. So across the line he goes. Mara Engel to 2nd. So that will be 3rd on the grid, 2nd row inside for Mara Engel. So an improvement right at the end, bumping Max Powell down into the 3rd row ahead of Arjun Maini and Sheldon van der Linde. Everybody's crossed the line. It is Nikki Thiim who earns his first ever pole position in the DTM, and it's also an SSR performance. Front row, Nikki Thiim alongside Mirko Bortolotti.
Incredible. That will be Maro Engel then, 3rd on the grid. He put in a noble effort there on his final flyer. Purple in Sector 1. He was just 100th of a second off of Nikki Thiim across the lap by the time they completed Sector 2. Lost a little bit more time to the green and black Lamborghini in that final sector. So then our first few rows are going to be SSR Performance 1, 2. Then it'll be Engel and Kelvin van der Linde. And Max Powell, 5th on the grid. That's a really good starting place for him, of course. And he'll be alongside Lucas Stoltz. That's a very competitive first couple of rows.
So Nikki Thiim jumping onto the scales. It's got nothing to do with Weight Watchers and everything to do with minimum weights of drivers with all of their paraphernalia, including the Hans device. But the Viking, I expect, will be able to see the smile on the other side of the circuit. He will be delighted with that. He won at the Spa 24-hour race last week, and he had a big smile after that. If he could win in the DTM the following weekend, that smile will be even greater, and he is in the best possible position to do that. There'll be lots of discussions over lunch in the SSR Performance pit, I should think. Maybe some strategy. How are they going to get round that tight turn 1 hairpin? Of course, the vital thing is that the two SSR Performance drivers don't connect with each other, but that they do all that they can to keep Maro Engel, who will be starting 3rd on the grid. They'll want to keep him at bay. And alongside Maro Engel will be Kelvin van der Linde. So that is classification of Group A. Nikki Thiim on the front row. Maro Engel, 2nd row. Max Powell, 3rd row. Arjun Maini, 4th row inside. 5th row, Sheldon van der Linde. 6th, Thierry Vermeulen. 7th, Frank Pereira. 8th, local man Marco Wittmann. 9th, Ricardo Feller. Oh, he'll be frustrated with that ahead of Clemens Schmid. That is the inside row for the race that takes place at 1:30 local time this afternoon. You can see that he is quite overwhelmed by it. Just to confirm, on the outside row will be Mirko Bortolotti ahead of Kelvin van der Linde. Oh, well, they've put it up for us. Thank you, chaps. There is your grid for the race 8 this afternoon. Nikki Thiim, Mirko Bortolotti on the front row ahead of Mara Engel, Kelvin van der Linde, Max Powell, Lucas Stoltz on row 3, Arjun Maini, Lucas Ara, and all Mercedes row 4 ahead of Sheldon van der Linde and Jack Aitken, so they can both score some points from there. Let's head back down to Verena, who I believe is with our pole sitter.
I'm here with Maro Engel, who's actually starting in P3, so congrats to that. So very promising for the race later on, starting from P3.
Yeah, good starting position. As always, it's close here, but managed to get in a good lap at the end, and P3 is definitely a good starting position, so looking forward to the race now.
Of course, it's also very challenging here to overtake, but obviously your aim is probably to get more to the front.
Of course, yeah. I mean, let's see what we can get. I think we've got a good race car, so let's see.
And Norisring is one of your favorite tracks?
It's a cool track. I don't know, favorite track? Yeah, it's for sure it's a cool track, but I have the luxury of having a lot of nice tracks that I've visited, so maybe there's a few that I rank higher, especially one near the Eiffel.
All right, but the atmosphere is always good.
Yeah, that's incredible here. The atmosphere here is second to none. I mean, it's amazing to see yesterday, full house, and the fans are having a great time, and I think that's what DTM is all about.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We're going to switch here. You're going to go over there. I'm going to grab Nikki in just a second once he's done, because actually it's Nikki Thiim's very first pole position in his DTM career, so he's going to be super excited, the Wild Viking. So here he is. Congratulations, Nikki. Fantastic job, the very first pole position. So how do you feel?
It's tough, huh? It's really tough. I'm so happy. It's really, been a lot of pressure. Like I have to be honest, the season has not been running as expected, but that's DTM. But now home race, SSR front row. Yesterday my boss almost killed me, so I hope now he'll give me a small kiss on the forehead maybe. But yeah, fantastic obviously, and yeah, now I can't wait for the race. Let's go.
Absolutely, let's go. And also, I mean, it's almost half of the season. So in other words, if the first half of the season didn't work as well, from now on you're on a high.
I hope so. Until now, you always see me with a sad face, but now I try to be here every time and hope to talk to you every time. So yeah, we push it.
Let's try. You're gonna get a kiss later on from your boss.
Yeah, I hope to see you again later. So up there. Okay.
All right, thank you so much. Best of luck for the race. Back to you.
I don't think I've ever heard in DTM somebody requesting that their boss kisses them on the forehead. Nikki Thiim, he earns his first pole position in this, the 40th anniversary of the DTM. Thank you, fans, and thank you, Nikki Thiim, for your entertainment. He's got 15 more pole positions to score, and he will be equal with his father, Kurt Thiim, who had 16 poles in the DTM. Right, what a thrilling qualifying session it's been. I can't wait for the race. It happens at 1:30 local time this morning. Bye-bye from me and Adam Weller. Let's head back down to the pits with Verena.
So, of course, now we're really looking forward to race 2. And, yeah, it's going to be super exciting. Let's see also what the weather brings, because that's obviously also always a challenge here at the Norisring. But it's going to be super exciting. You do not want to miss it. So see you later on. Here are the highlights. Bye-bye.